Let's learn how to draft, cut, and sew this white shawl collar jacket. This tutorial is very detailed, so just make sure you watch it to the end. Hi there, it's Viv here, and you're welcome to my channel where I share my sewing knowledge with you. So let's get right into today's tutorial. So I'll come down by 5 inches to mark my start line. So this line is my start line or my shoulder line. So from that point, I'll come down by 9 inches for my chest line. Next, I'll be marking my half length line. For my front half length, I'll be using 18 inches. My front half length is 18 inches, so I'll mark this. This is for the front. From the half length or waistline, I'll be coming down by 9 inches to mark my hip line. Now from the edge of my paper here, I'll be going in by 1.5 inches to mark my button allowance. So I'll just mark 1.5 inch. This is the front pattern. So once to create this button allowance here, so I'll be starting all my measurements from this line. This is now my new center front line. So I'll be imputing my shoulder measurements. My shoulder is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 is 8 inches. I'll mark it. I'll be coming down by 1 inch. I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and from this point I'll go in by 3 inches. From the center front line, I'll go in by 3 inches and I'll connect this way to get my shoulder slope. Next, I'm marking my bust measurements. The bust is 38 inches. 38 divided by 4, this will give me 9.5 inches. So I'll mark it here. On the waistline, I'll be taking quarter of my waist measurements. Waist is 32. 32 divided by 4, that's 8 inches. And I'll be adding 1 inch for that. On the hip line, I'll be taking a quarter of my hip measurements. My hip is 45 inches. 45 divided by 4, I have 11.25. And I'll mark it here. I'll go ahead and connect all these points together. Next, I'll be imputing my dart. Half of my bust span is 4 inches. I'll mark it. And I'll draw a straight line. I want to mark my bust point measurement. My bust point measurement is 10.5 inches. So I'll mark 10.5 inches. And I'll mark my dart 1/2 inch on both sides. And I'll connect up to the bust point line. From the hip line, I'll come up by 1 inch, and that is where I will end my dart leg. So I'll draw up to that point. Next, I'll plot my armhole curve. I'm coming up from my chest line by 3.5 inches, and I'm going in by 1/2 inch. Then I'll plot my armhole curve. For the neckline, I'll be using a width of 3 inches and a depth of 3 inches. Now this is our front's basic pattern. So I'll not be using the hip length for the full top length. I'll be using 24 inches for my top length. So from the shoulder line, I'll mark 24 inches. This is the top length that I'll be working with. So I'll go ahead and mark this. I'm using a different color so it will be clear. So this is our top length. Now I'll be going over to draft the back pattern. So just like we did in front, I'll be coming down by 9 inches to mark my chest line. Now if you don't know how to get your chest line, the formula for calculating it is your bust measurements divided by 6, then whatever value you have, you add 1.5 inches to it. That will give you your chest line measurements. Now for me, my chest line measurement is 8 inches, but because of the shoulder slope, I added an extra 1 inch. That's why I'm marking 9 inches. Then by the time I take off my shoulder slope, I'll be left with 8 inches, which is my chest line measurements. Next, I'll be marking my half length. My back half length is 16 inches. Because of the bust, the front half length and the back half length are not the same measurements. So my back half length is 16 inches, while my front half length is 18 inches. Now for the hip line, for my half length, I'll come down by 9 inches, just like we did for the front. I'll come down by 9 inches and I'll mark my hip line measurements. On the waistline, I'll be doing the back tightening. So I'll go in by half an inch on the waistline and I'll connect to my hip line. And I'll connect back to my shoulder area, but I'm not getting to the top. I'm stopping midway. And I'll end it there. So this is now my new center back line, and I'll be taking all my measurements starting from this line. For the shoulder measurements, I'll still be maintaining this initial line, and I'll be marking 8 inches. Quarter of my bust measurements, which is 9.5 inches, I'll mark it. Quarter of my waist measurements, which is 8 inches plus 1 inch for that, making it 9. I'll mark it. And my hip measurements, I'll mark it here. Now connect the points together. I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'll go in by 3 inches and I'll connect. My armhole, I'll be taking half of this measurement. This is 8 inches, half of it is 4. So I'll mark it. I'll come in by half an inch. Now I'll plot my darts. From the new center back line, I'll go in by 4 inches, which is half of my bust span measurement, and I will square a line or draw a straight line. From the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and on the hip line, I'll go up by 1 inch. This is where I'll be ending my dart legs. So I'll take ½ inch on both sides, and I will draw my darts. For the back neckline, I'm still using a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 1 inch. Now for the top length, remember the top length we used 24 inches. Now like I said, the back half length is different from the front half length. The front is 18 while the back is 16, so we have a difference of 2 inches. Now this will also affect our top length. So instead of marking 24 inches for the top length, I'll be marking 22 inches at the back. So I'll go ahead and mark my top length of 22 inches. So I just want to cut this out and set it aside. We'll still be making further alterations on this. So I'll just set this aside while I bring back my front pattern to continue working on it. So to reconcile this difference in length between the front and the back, we'll be making use of the bust dart. Now, like I said earlier, my difference is 2 inches. So you measure yours. Everyone's body is different, so we might not have the same measurement. Measure yours and get the difference. The difference in mine is 2 inches. So from this bust line, I will come down by 2 inches. And I will connect it this way to meet the dart line. So by the time we close up this bust dart, you see that the front and the back, they will match up equally. So before I start alteration on this front pattern, I'll be cutting it out. Just want to cut out the excess paper. So the first thing I'll be doing is to determine the break point of my collar. So it will be at my underbust. My underbust is 13.5 inches. So I'll be marking it here. This is 13.5 inches. This is where my first button will be. So this is my break point. Now I'll be extending my shoulder line. I'll extend it out a bit like this because I want to draw my roll line, the roll line of my collar. So from my neck point here, I'll come out by 1 inch. I'll mark 1 inch and I'll connect from this 1 inch point to the break point. Now I just want to extend this. So from this roll line, I'll be extending the line up to this point. So this line I just drew now is called the roll line. I'll be attaching more paper around the center front so as to be able to plot my collar. So I'll be adding more paper around here to give me room to create my collar design. So now I want to tighten the shoulder. I'll be taking half of this measurement. This is 5 inches. Half of it, which is 2.5 inches. I'll mark it here and I'll draw a line to meet up my that line. So before I tighten the shoulder, I want to work on the collar. Now I'll be extending this neckline upwards. I'll place my ruler this way and I will extend my neckline just like this. I'll bring in my back pattern and I'll measure around my back neckline. So I'll place my tape this way and I'll measure around the back neckline. And whatever value I have, I'll be putting it on this line. So I'll be marking it on this line. I'll mark the value here. Then I'll also take half of this measurement. So I'll mark half of the measurements. Now I'm going to square a short line. From this line, I'll be squaring a short line. That is, I'm drawing a line at 90 degrees angle. So I'll draw it this way and I will mark ½ inch. I'll mark ½ inch on that line. And I'll connect to this point. I'll blend up this point so I don't have a sharp edge. I'll blend it up this way. Now you want to make sure that this point is equal to this line. So I'll measure what I have here. I'll measure it. And I want to take the same measurements here to ensure that they are equal. So this is the point. Now from this new line here, which is now our new back line, I'll be squaring a line, making sure that it's going through this point here. So I'll place my ruler at a 90 degrees angle to that line and I will draw it this way. See, so this is what we have currently. Now what I'll be doing first is to draft the basic shawl collar pattern and we'll be adapting that pattern to the type of collar that we want. So I'll be marking 1 inch for my roll line and I'll be marking another 1 inch and I will add an extra 1/4 inch. just to cover up the back very well. So in total, from this point, I marked about 2/4 inches. I'll mark that 2/4 inches, and I'll draw out my shawl collar connecting it. I'm just going to do this, and I'll shape out my collar. So to adapt this to the color that we want, I'll be slashing through this back neckline part. So what I want to do, I want to extend this line. I extended this line, and I'll be dividing this into 4 to create slash lines. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll be slashing through these points and spreading it before we get our final collar adaptation. So I just want to cut this so I'll be able to slash and spread it. So I'll be slashing this way. So I'll be placing another piece of paper underneath it so I can spread it. So I'll be spreading each of them by 1/2 inch. I'll be spreading it by 1/2 inch. I'm going to reduce this part so I can spread more easily. So starting from here, I will go up by 1/2 inch, and I'll tape it down. I'll spread the next one by 1/2 inch, and I'll tape down. And I'll spread, this is the last one, I'll spread it by 1/2 inch, and I'll tape down. So this is now the new neckline, the way our neckline will now be shaped. This is the curve of our neckline. What I'll do next is to extend this out. Extend the neckline out that way. On this line, I'll be measuring the width I want for my collar. From this point here, I'll mark a width of 4 inches. So for the shaping of my collar lapel, I'll be placing my ruler this way, and I'll draw a straight line from my break points. Now this is the shoulder area, so you determine how wide you want it to sit against your shoulder. I'm using 4 inches. Now I'm going to draw a curved line to connect this point. Now for the width of this, I'll be using 7 inches. These measurements are optional. You can go with whatever dimension you want. Now I'll draw a line to connect these points together. And I'll just be blending out every sharp point so it's smooth. For the edge here, I just want to style it this way. I want it to have a slight curve, so I'll just use my ruler to shape it out this way. So this is the final look of my lapel. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll be tightening my shoulder, and then I will impute my armhole style line, which is what I'll be using for this jacket. Now before I do that, for the hem of the jacket, I want to style it a bit. So here's what I'll do. Now for my waistline, I'll do this. At this part here, I'll come up by 1 inch. I want to give it a curve around here. I'll come up by 1 inch, and I will draw it this way. So to tighten the shoulder darts, I'll be slashing through so I can close my bust darts. This I'll be closing my bust darts. I'll redraw this line to make up for this difference here. I'll measure this opening I have here, and I'll divide it into 4. Whatever value I have, I'll be placing it here and here. So the value I have, I'm just going to place it here and here. I'll draw a line. I'll extend my shoulder line outwards. I want to open up my waist dart so I can close the shoulder dart. So I'm slashing this open. See this that leg we just drew now, I'll be closing it. Now if you notice, our shoulder line is no longer straight, so I'll redraw it, and I'll be plotting our new armhole curve from this extension here. I'll redraw the armhole curve. So this is now our new armhole line. To plot my armhole style line, I'll be coming down by 4 inches. Mark 4 inches. My bust is bust 38. For a smaller bust, like bust 30, 32, you can use 2 inches. So I'm using 4 inches, and I will connect back to my bust line. So this is our center front, and this is our side front. Now I can go ahead and cut out this pattern. So at the side here, I'm coming up by another 1 inch. This is a personal preference. I just want it to be shorter. So I'm coming up by 1 inch and I'm joining back. Like I said, this is a personal preference. Then as a neckline here, I want to do, instead of the 4 inches I did earlier, I want to make it 3 inches, just so it doesn't, I don't want it to fall over at the back too much. So instead of 4 inches, I'm doing 3 inches. All these are personal preferences. So I'll redraw my lapel. So that's it. Now I can cut out. At this point here, I just want to blend it up a bit so it's not too sharp, to take away that pointy part. So this is it for the front pattern. I'll be going over to the back pattern to do the alterations. So for the back pattern, what I'll be doing majorly is just to restyle the hemline and to create the armhole style, and that's basically all that I'll be doing for the back pattern. So I want to do this. I'll bring in my front pattern and I'll match up the waistline like this, and I'll take note of these points just to be sure that they match up. Or you can as well just measure 2 inches. Remember, it's 2 inches we used. You can just measure 2 inches, still the same thing, and you restyle the hemline. So I'll just do this and this. Just like we did in front, I'll be taking the midpoint of this, basically the same thing we did before, that I'll be repeating. And I'll connect. I'll cut this out. Now I'll be slashing one of my dart legs so I can close up the shoulder dart. So I'll be able to tighten it. And I'll close the waist dart so I can spread the shoulder open. And I'll measure the opening here and divide into 4. I'll place the value I have here and here, and I'll connect back. I'll extend my shoulder so I can withdraw my armhole. So I'll be opening up this waist dart. I want to open it up so I can close up the shoulder darts. I'll withdraw my shoulder line, and then I'll withdraw my armhole. I'll come down by 4 inches just like we did for the front. I'll mark 4 inches on the armhole, and I will draw my armhole style line. So this is my center back, and this is my side back pattern. So this is it for the back. Now for the armhole, I want to reshape it. I'll do the same thing for the front. I want to reshape it to be like a halter neck style. So I'll be using a width of 2 inches, and I'll connect back to my armhole line. So this is now my new armhole line. I'll go ahead and cut out. If you have any sharp points, blend it out. So this is the back pattern. Now for the front, I just want to reshape the armhole to have the halter style line. So I'll just join this piece together temporarily. Just like we did for the back, I'll take 2 inches and I'll connect back to my armhole. So that's it. So these are all my patterns, and I'll be transferring them to fabric. So I cut my fabric on fold, and I added 1/2 inch seam allowance all around my pattern. So for the center back pattern, I added 1/2 inch allowance all around it, while for the side back and the side front, I added 1/2 inch. Then at the side seams, I added 1 inch sewing allowance. So I'll be using these pieces to cut out the lining piece. So I'm using this fabric for the lining because of the lapel area. So this will show at the front of my jacket. So I'll be cutting it on fold. So I've cut out the lining pieces for all the other parts. This is the back piece. Cut out the lining pieces for all of them. Now I'll be moving to the sewing machine to join all the pieces together. So I also cut out SA interfacing, which I'll be using for the lining part of the center front because of the lapel area, to give it a little bit of support around that part. So I'll be joining all my pieces together with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. This is my center back piece. I'll go ahead and join the both sides together with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Next, I will attach the side back pieces to it with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So I'll be doing this and this. So I'll be notching those points to help it relax better. Where we have the curve, I'll be notching around it. I'll also make a notch at the waistline. I'll repeat the same thing for this other side. Now this is it. I'll join the lining piece the same way. So this is my lining piece. I'll set this aside while I join the front pieces together. So just like we did at the back, I'll be joining the side front to the center front with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'll notch around this curved point so it relaxes better. I'll also make notches at the waistline. So this is what we have. I'll repeat it at the other side. So this is my 2 front pieces. Now I'll place them right side facing right side, and I'll join it at the neckline with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So what I want to do next, I'll be attaching the front piece to the back piece at the side seam with 1 inch sewing allowance. So this is my back piece. So I'll be placing it right side facing right side. I'll be joining it with 1 inch sewing allowance of back stitch, and I'll sew down. So I have my front and back joined together. Now I'll be taking this to my ironing board and I'll press open all the seam allowances. I'll be pressing all of them open. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and do the same thing to my lining. I'll be joining the center front to the side front and I will attach it to the back. Just the same thing I did here. I'll repeat it for the lining. So I'm done joining all the lining pieces together. I've joined it at the neckline and I've also joined it at the side with the same sewing allowance I used for the main fabric. I'll be taking this to my ironing board and I'll be pressing open all my seam allowances. So I'm done pressing open all my seams. Now what I'll be doing next, I'll be joining the front neckline to the back neckline. So this is how you place it. This is the back neckline. This is the right side of my outfit. Now this is the right side of my outfit. This is the front. So I'll match up the seam lines. I'll match them up this way, making sure it's aligned. And then I will pin down. Now this is the two shoulders. I'll match them up together and I will pin. I'll do the same thing over here. I'll match up the shoulders and I'll pin down. Now I'll be sewing it down. I'll start from the midpoint and I'll sew all the way down to this other end and I'll come over and do the same thing here. I'm joining with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Now at this point here, where we have the neckline and shoulder joining, I'll just notch a little. I'll just notch it a little to enable me join it easily. Then I'll continue my sewing. I'm doing this carefully because it can be a little bit tricky around here. So you have to take your time and join it carefully. So that's it. Now you want to notch around. So I'll just notch to make it relax better. I'll repeat the same thing on this other side. I'll just notch at this point. Just make little notches at this point before I start sewing. So I'll take this to my ironing board and I will press open. I'll press it open and flat. And for the lining, I'll be repeating this same process for the lining piece. I'll join the lining the same way I just joined this. So I'm done pressing it. What I'll be doing next is to turn it over with the lining. Now I'll be matching up the collar. Now this is the center and this is the center of the lining. So I'm just matching them up this way and I'll pin down. Now I'll be sewing all around on 1/2 inch. It's 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'll be sewing all around, all the way to the end. So I'll go ahead and do that. When I get to this part, I'll turn over this way and I'll continue my sewing. When I get to this point, I'll backstitch and I'll stop. I'll go over to this part and I'll be repeating the same thing here. Now I'll be notching around all the curved parts. Wherever I have a curved part, I'll just notch to help it relax better. I'll take this to the ironing board and I'll press open the seam allowance. I'll press it open all around. So I'm done pressing it. I've pressed everything down. Now the next thing I want to do is to turn the armhole opening. So in fixing your armhole, I'll be showing you a common problem that you might encounter and I will show you how to resolve it. Now let's say for instance you want to turn over your armhole. The normal thing you would do After flipping over to the wrong side, what you do is to match up and sew around. Now I'm just going to do this for demonstration purpose so you understand what I'm talking about. Now if I flip over to the wrong side and I match up my side seams, I match it up this way, I match up my shoulder seams, and I sew around. I'll be sewing with a loose stitch because I'll be taking out this stitch later. It's just for demonstration purpose. Now let me go ahead and sew on 1/2 inch. Now after stitching and you flip over to the right side, do you see what's happening? You can't find the armhole. After flipping over to the right side, you can't find the armhole. You'll not be able to fix your hand. So this is the problem you will face if you turn over your sleeve that way. Now I'll be showing you the trick I used in turning over my armhole. You can see this one that I've done. You can see, compare it to what is happening over here. So I'll be showing you the trick I used in turning it over. Now I'll take out this stitch. So here's what I'll be doing instead. I will turn over to the right side. Now for my main fabric, you can see the way my sleeve is right now. I will fold it in by 1/2 inch. I will also fold in the lining by 1/2 inch because this is what we are trying to achieve. So I'll fold them this way and I'll hold it. Then, still holding it, I'm not letting go of it. I will put my other hand inside to get this point. I'm just picking it. This point I'm holding inwards. That part I folded in. The way I folded it in, I'm just going to pick it and come out this way. Can you see? This way. And then I will arrange it. So this is the trick in getting your armhole perfectly. After picking it out this way, I'll match up my shoulder points and then I'll sew down with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So if I turn over to the right side now, this is what I have. So you can see the difference. You can see the difference. Our armhole is out. So this is just the trick in sewing your sleeveless shawl collar jackets. Now I'll be notching around the armhole to make it relax better, and then I'll take it to my ironing board to press it. So I've pressed the armhole, as you can see. Now we're almost done with this jacket. The next thing to do is to close up the bottom part. So I'll be turning over to the wrong side to do that. But before I close up, I'll be opening up the center back. This is the center back of the lining. I'll be making a little opening. So after closing up the hem, we'll be able to turn it out through this opening. So I'm just going to open up. I'm not opening it up entirely, just a little bit. This opening is enough for me, so I can close up my bottom parts. I'll be matching up all the seam lines. This is the center back. I'll match it up and pin down. I'll match up the rest of the seam lines. So I'll sew down from one end to the other end on 1/2 inch. So I'll just make notches around. I'll take this to my ironing board and I'll press it open. And then I'll be flipping over to the right side through this opening here. I'll flip it over to the right side. So I'm done pressing the hem of this jacket, as you can see. Now the only thing that's left to do is to close up this opening, and I'll be closing it up using the invisible stitching technique. I have made a video on that and it's on my page. If you don't know how to do it, I'll be linking the video I'll drop the link in the comment section, so do well to watch it to know how to close it up. So I'll be doing that. So I've closed the opening, as you can see. If you want to know how I did this, go and watch the video. The link is in the comments. Now what's left to do is to fix my buttons, to fix the buttonhole and the buttons. So I'll be fixing it here. This is where the first button will be, at the end of the lapel, and the other ones will be here. So that's it for this tutorial. If you've watched up to this point, do well to leave a like on this video. Also share it so that others can learn from it. Leave me a comment in the comment section. I'll be reading all of the comments. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.